Snow was falling heavily over the glittering city streets that night, blanketing the sidewalks in white and muffling the sound of rushing cars. The world was alive with Christmas lights, laughter, and joy spilling out from decorated homes and glowing shop windows. But not every corner of the city shared in that warmth. Down a deserted alleyway, between overflowing dumpsters and piles of discarded cardboard, a little girl no older than 6 lay curled up, fast asleep on a makeshift bed of rags and trash. Her small body shivered beneath the thin dress she wore, her bare feet tucked close to her chest as if even her tiny arms could shield her from the freezing wind. Her face was pale, streaked with dirt, but even in her suffering, there was an innocence about her that pierced through the cold night. And that was the moment when Daniel Carter, one of the city's youngest and most successful CEOs, stopped dead in his tracks. A man known for his iron will and sharp business instincts, he had been on his way home from yet another late-night meeting, lost in thoughts about profit margins, contracts, and deadlines. But nothing could have prepared him for the sight of that fragile child asleep in the filth, her little chest rising and falling against the brutal indifference of the world. Something inside him broke. Before I continue, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the power of compassion to change lives, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone you care about, leave a comment, and subscribe to Royal Stories. Your support helps us spread stories that remind the world of the good still left in humanity. Daniel stood frozen, his breath visible in the icy air, torn between disbelief and instinct. He had built his empire on logic and reason, on never letting emotions cloud his judgment. Yet here was a moment that shattered all reason. Carefully, almost fearfully, he approached the child. She stirred slightly, clutching a ragged teddy bear that looked as though it had been rescued from the same trash heap she slept on. Her lips moved faintly, whispering a word Daniel could hardly hear, "Mama." His heart clenched. He crouched down, shrugging off his expensive overcoat and wrapping it around her tiny frame. She woke with a start, frightened at first, but when her big, tearful eyes locked onto his, something passed between them, something Daniel hadn't felt in years. He lifted her into his arms, realizing just how light she was, almost weightless, as though hunger had eaten away at her strength. Carrying her to his car, Daniel didn't care about the snow dampening his suit or the question swirling in his mind. All he knew was that no child should ever spend Christmas Eve like this. Back at his luxurious penthouse, the contrast was almost unbearable. The glittering Christmas tree sparkled with ornaments, gifts piled beneath it, but the silence in the room was suffocating. Daniel had everything money could buy, yet the emptiness had haunted him for years. As he laid the little girl down on the soft couch and covered her with a blanket, he couldn't help but remember the night he had lost his wife, leaving him to raise his infant son alone. He had built walls around his heart, focusing only on work, convinced that emotions were a weakness. But now, looking at the fragile child sleeping peacefully, he felt those walls beginning to crumble. The next morning, she awoke to the scent of warm food and the sound of carols playing softly in the background. Daniel's son, Ethan, who was just a year older than the girl, peeked curiously from behind the sofa. Shy at first, he eventually offered her a cookie from the plate he was holding. The girl accepted it hesitantly, her small hands trembling as though she wasn't used to being given anything at all. She ate slowly, almost fearfully, as if she expected the food to be taken from her. Daniel watched, his heart heavy, realizing she must have gone hungry for days. As the hours passed, he tried to ask her questions, her name, where she lived, where her family might be, but she remained mostly silent. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft, almost broken. Her name was Lily. She didn't know where her mother was anymore. All she remembered was being left behind when her mother promised to come back for her. She had waited in vain, until the streets became her home. The truth of her story hit Daniel like a blow. He couldn't imagine the despair of a child abandoned, left to fend for herself in a world so cruel. He found himself battling with emotions he had buried for years, pain, empathy, and a deep sense of responsibility. He wanted to protect her, to make sure she never had to feel alone again. Christmas passed slowly, not with the usual extravagant parties Daniel was known for, but with something far more precious. He watched as Lily and Ethan played together, laughing, their innocence filling the house with a warmth he had long forgotten. For the first time in years, Daniel didn't feel like a powerful CEO in a cold glass office tower. He felt like a father again, one capable of love, of healing, of giving. Yet even as hope bloomed, shadows remained. Daniel knew the law would have questions, that child services would demand answers. He worried Lily might be taken away, placed into a system that often overlooked the true needs of children. More than that, he feared the possibility of her mother reappearing one day, not out of love, but out of desperation or greed. And yet, deep down, he also hoped for that miracle, for Lily's sake, that her mother might come back truly wanting her. Weeks passed, and Daniel found himself more deeply bonded with Lily. She began to smile more, to eat without fear, to fall asleep without trembling. Ethan adored her, calling her his little sister, and Daniel's heart swelled every time he heard it. Slowly, he began the process of seeking legal guardianship, determined to give Lily the safety and love she deserved. But fate had one more twist in store. One evening, as snow once again fell outside, a woman appeared at Daniel's door. Her face was pale, her eyes hollow with regret. She was Lily's mother. Life had crushed her, poverty and despair driving her into choices that had torn her from her child. She had returned, broken but desperate, begging to see Lily. Daniel stood torn between anger and compassion. He could see the pain etched into her every feature, but he also remembered the promise he had made to himself, that Lily would never know abandonment again. What followed was not a fight but a fragile moment of truth. Lily clung to her mother, tears streaming down both their faces, while Daniel stood silently, his chest heavy. He realized then that true kindness wasn't about possession, it was about giving a child the chance to know love, whether from him or her mother. Yet deep inside, he prayed that even if Lily's mother regained her place, their bond would never be broken. The story of that Christmas Eve became one Daniel would never forget. It wasn't about contracts or empires or wealth. It was about a child who reminded him that hearts, once closed, could open again, and that love, whether by blood or by choice, was the greatest gift of all. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to Royal Stories. Your engagement helps us bring more powerful, life-changing stories to people around the world. And before we end, here's a special request. Share in the comments what this story meant to you personally, because your words may inspire someone else who needs to believe in kindness again.